Hello and welcome back to Reenacting. Today's video is going to be a tutorial video on how to replace and sew on hat insignia for the M43 cap. As you can see here, I got a SS M43 cap a little while back, and the insignia, particularly the eagle, isn't exactly the greatest, as you can see there. So I got myself much better little eagle, and I'm going to sew it on today. And this should just serve as kind of a tutorial on BeVo insignia in general. I see a lot of new reenactors who are just starting out who really have no idea what they're doing when it comes to working with BeVo insignia and sewing it and cutting it and all that kind of stuff. So this should serve as a basic tutorial for that kind of thing. So first off, you can see I've got a bunch of my supplies around me. Got just a pair of standard scissors, ruler, thread, needle, and then this is a roll of basting tape that I'll be using. Very, very, very helpful. Other people like to use glue or other sorts of fabric adhesives, but I really like this because you can come in strips and it's a lot easier to remove and not permanent, unlike the glues. So you can use it on insignia to keep it in place, and then if you never want to remove the insignia, then you can do that easily, peel off the little tape afterwards, and it won't leave any streaks like glue and other stuff is prone to do. So first things first, what I need to do is obviously take off this old patch right here. So flip it up and see the sewing on the back of it here. And basically I'll just take my scissors here and maybe the needle and start working on snipping all that out. Okay, now at this point the eagle should be just about removed. Just pull on the last couple little threads here, and it should come right off. There we go. Set this to the side, pull the last couple of threads out. And you can actually see the faintest little bits of exactly what I was talking about, fabric glue on here. Thankfully this will get covered up because I'm going to sew on a new one, but that's streaking and stuff left by fabric glue. So for example, if this was on a tunic and it was an SS tunic and you had put an SS eagle on your sleeve, and then you eventually wanted to take it off, well, you can't really take it off because you're going to leave these streaks here, and then you would have had to re-sew a new SS eagle there, so you couldn't change out the tunic to be Heer or anything else like that without leaving little bits and faint reminders of what the tunic used to be. So with that step complete, the next thing to do is to start cutting and folding on this little guy. So as you can see, the eagle comes on this little backing, and the thing you have to do with all this is cut and fold it so that it looks kind of like how this one is that it's all folded in on itself on the back there, and then you sew it on. You don't just cut it all the way off. So we're going to take it, our edge here, I like to start at the top, and we're going to snip right up on the edge here. There we go, on one side. Go to the other side. And do the same thing. I'm going to snip right up to the edge. Just be mindful not to actually cut into the part, the eagle itself. There we go. And now we should have a section right here that we can fold back onto the eagle to form the top part of it, like so. So now what I'll do is set this down, take my basting tape here, peel off a little strip, measure out how much we got, and now take this on the back like so, peel off the other little piece of the tape, there we go. And now when I go to fold this back on itself, I should be able to have a nice edge on it like so. So now I'll go and do that with all the rest of these parts here. Now I find it when you're doing these SS eagles and they have actually a little tiny little piece on the end that is flat, they don't come to a perfect little peak, I find it easier to fold both corners down on either side. One side here, and then I will fold this other corner down. Cutting it right up to the edge there. Come on. There we go. I'll fold this piece in on itself, and then obviously trim this bit down here, and then fold it in so that you get a clean little slope part on the end, and then it'll come down with the other angle, and it looks nice and flush. So that's just how I do it. Okay, so I've just about got my eagle down to the little wreath here. As I'm going forward from here, what I'm going to do is cut out little sections going around, and then just kind of fold each tiny little piece in on itself to get it as round as possible. As you're going along, one thing you'll notice is on all of your little corners, you're probably going to find little loose threads or little tiny pieces where it doesn't look very nice, and just, you know, snip it as much as you can to get a nice clean little edge and corner. So, especially on the wreath, you'll find that a lot, and just kind of snip, 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 snip as much as possible. Again, don't cut into your folded areas, or then you'll just make a mess, but otherwise make it look as nice as possible. So, another thing to keep in mind as you're cutting these, just don't forget to remind yourself the people that made these all those years ago were also human, and they did make little mistakes. So if you find yourself with one area that looks a tiny bit off, don't worry, it's not a big deal. There are plenty of original examples that look, you know, a little questionable according to reenacting standards, depending on who you ask. So just be sure to keep that in mind. So here's a close-up of the finished eagle here. Finished doing the folding on the wreath. See what it looks like on the back there. All the shiny bit is the basting tape. And do a quick little comparison versus the old one. You can notice the old one doesn't have little indents where the wreath is versus where the tips of the wings come in, and then the wreath starts, whereas this one does. And then just the lack of detailing in the body itself. So just not as good of a reproduction. But there's the completed one of it all folded, and now it's ready to be sewn on. So one last step before we get ready to sew. You can see I've put 2 more pieces of basting tape on the back here. And I peel those off. leave the little sticky bits, and then take our hat. You can pretty much kind of see right where the previous eagle was. Line it up so that it's parallel on there. And there we go. Now we're ready to sew it on. Alright, you can see I've got my sewing machine all set up and all ready to go, hat in place, and everything's all threaded, so now final step is just to sew it all on together. And here we have the finished product. All sewn on, ends all tied together, it's all good to go. So looking much, much nicer than the other one. You can see the sewing job on the back side here. But that is the tutorial on how to cut, fold, and then sew a BeVo SS cap eagle. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I hope this was helpful, and now you know how to do BeVo. This will work for any sort of BeVo, be it any sort of cap insignia, eagle, skull right here, or any of the eagles for tunics, or anything like that. Any BeVo insignia, foreign patches, yada yada. So hopefully you guys enjoyed and learned something from this, and I will catch you in the next video.